This is the Media Effectiveness All-Stars panel, and I'm extremely excited to host this session. This is honestly the bit in life for me where I can go and tell my mum I've finally made it. It's an honour and a privilege to be able to do this. Thanks to RTL Ad Connect for the invite to doing this, and thanks to you two for coming on stage and joining me. Now, I want to do something a little bit special, create a bit of a noise, make these guys feel really welcome. I'm going to introduce them. And I don't tend to do that, and you guys are going to go crazy and show your appreciation. So, first up, we have the famous author of the industry Bible, the long and short of it, BBD creative agency legend and international marketing expert, effectiveness expert. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Les Binet. So I always enjoy the feedback I get when I do these panels and I post them online. And the biggest feedback I got is it Binet or Binet?
Binet.
I'm glad, because Binet is so pretentious. So I'm pleased. Okay, second up. Okay, you did that quite well, by the way. So let's do it again. One more time. We have a professor who propelled herself into the advertising world with a fantastic bit of research about what makes ads effective. And since then, she launched her own global tech company on attention, where she is the founder and CEO. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Karen Nelson-Field.
Thanks for having me.
Right, it's all downhill from here. So well done. Thank you very much, audience. You did your part. We're going to start with the basics. And I've got a couple of slides. I know I'm moving, cameraman, but it's because it's in my pocket. Les is going to talk to us about what actually makes advertising work, how it should work. Because I feel as though that this is the point that we've misunderstood in the industry, and we've forgotten actually how advertising works. So we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to actually grill into Les to see if he's right or wrong, and Karen's going to come back to. We've got a couple of slides. Les does this on his marketing course, and he's going to talk us through it. Here's the first one. Over to you, Les.
Okay, so these two slides come from a course that I run on how advertising works. And one of the slides leaked out into the public domain and seems to have had a certain amount of traction. But I think possibly it hasn't been properly understood because they haven't seen this slide. So this is, I think, quite a common model of how advertising works. You know, advertising increases sales by increasing brand engagement and loyalty, by improving brand awareness and image, by communicating motivating brand messages. And when I put that slide up in my course, most people nod along and go, yep, that's how advertising works. And click. Uh-oh. It's wrong. Every line is subtly wrong. So click. Well, actually, no, don't click yet. But the point is, most advertising increases sales, or some advertising increases sales, but a lot of it is about maintaining sales or increasing prices and margins. So that's only part of the story. Could we go back again? Sorry, this is probably going to take up the whole half hour. Brand engagement and loyalty is largely a red herring. As many people from Ehrenberg Bass have, and Ehrenberg himself before, have emphasized. Yes, brand awareness is part of the story, but mental availability is much broader than mere name awareness. Brand image doesn't tend to move very much. It's more about a sort of more general positivity towards a brand. And lots of advertising doesn't work that way at all. It's about getting a direct response. And the role for explicit messages is quite small. So, click. So I do an hour on this, and then at the end of it, I end up with this, which is brand increases and maintains sales and margins by slightly increasing the chance that you choose the brand, which is, so advertising is a weak force, not a strong one. By making the brand easy to think of and easy to buy, removing, so mental and physical availability. And it does that by creating positive feelings and associations, which is a much weaker, more system one approach than brand image, with broad reach ads that people find interesting and enjoyable, and or targeted activation that they find relevant and useful. So that takes you into the sort of the long and the short of it stuff.
The issue with this language is that it's not very compelling to a CFO, is it? Because you're basically saying advertising is a weak force. Do you want to explain why it's not a strong force, I guess? That's the opposite.
Okay, so some people find that language less compelling. I have to say, I think when I talk to CFOs, when I talk to them in terms of sales and profit, they find that much more compelling than fluffy stuff about brand image. But the point is that the strong theory of advertising is small amounts of advertising make people become very loyal, completely convert people to the brand. Advertising is a weak force in the sense that it makes many, 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 many people slightly more likely to choose the brand. And that generates immense amounts of profit.
Oh, look, I think they use... Look, I understand it. Obviously, my background, I totally get the concept, but I think the words in English language are wrong. And so how I usually describe it is the path between advertising and outcomes is not linear. So one is linear and one is non-linear. So I think most CEOs, CFOs, CMOs think that if you advertise, they will buy, and it will do so with a strong force, but it's actually not. To your point, it's a weak force in that it nudges propensities so that when you're in the market to buy, you might think of them. So I often, and I have a real issue with this in our industry and the attention and measurement industry because, marketing metrics and measurement is supposed to drive outcomes. But I go, well, dude, I can get you, this much attention, but it won't always lead to a sale because guess what? Advertising is a weak force. So I think that the language should be linear and non-linear.
That is absolutely the opposite of what you hear on nearly every other panel in Cannes these days. It's all about outcomes, outcomes, and outcomes. Yet what you're saying is that advertising doesn't actually work in that fashion.
No. Please can you not quote me on that? Because advertising works. No, advertising works.
You're putting a lot of people out of jobs with this language.
No, it's just the nature of the persuasion. So it's not as persuasive as most people think, which means that... Here's the upshot. If you didn't advertise, your market share would go backwards. So to your point, it's about maintenance. But in terms of growth and in terms of additional sales and persuasiveness, it just is not real. So, yeah.
Is the language around that then to tie that into profitability? As in the advertising can lead to stronger brand equity and the ability to sell at higher prices. Is that the key to the language to the CFO to use to encourage? Absolutely.
So I see my job as being to understand the relationship between marketing communications and profit. And I think that we do ourselves a disservice by constantly talking about fluffy intermediate things as if they are the goal. Attention, awareness, whatever, they're important, but they're all means to an end, aren't they? It's about money. We're about making more money for clients.
Has maybe we can blame Google here for a little bit, but has the digital marketing industry sort of changed fundamentally how people believe advertising works?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what do you do about it? Is this shift changing at all? Do you see more clients adopting this approach now, or are they still going the other way, the wrong way?
I think the tide has begun to turn. So I don't know if anyone was here at the talk that I did last year with Grace Kite and Tom Roach. So Grace's data suggests that the kind of short-termism that we saw as a result of the whole philosophy of digital marketing being very short-term, that short-termism seems to be turning around and that there's a more balanced approach to marketing.
I think that's a lot to do with the industry I'm in. So, attention is an interesting category. I built that category based on the fact that not all reach is equal, which most people actually don't understand why that is. And the reality is it's the long tail that doesn't get your advertising exposed, which is why I sort of built this category around, well, instead of engagement, we need kind of an attention measurement system to be able to equivalize the reach problem. So I think in combination, the industry over the last couple of years has kind of come to terms with the fact that we need to think about the long tail, and therefore, by default, quality media has kind of pushed back up a bit.
I wonder what will happen over the course of time, because I obviously run a lot of events in this area. And when you look at marketing experts or marketing effectiveness experts, there's basically still only 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 in the world. And there doesn't seem to be any newer, young ones.
Are we in the list? Are we on the list?
You're on the list.
Good.
But Les, how old are you, Les?
That's a very personal question.
Well, no, that's fine. No, it's
Don't
fine.
ask
It's fair
me that,
game.
Justin. I've got a
64.
right hook.
64. 64. He still looks... You don't look 64, mate. But, if you think about it, there's no young ones coming through. And I wonder whether the young ones coming through are talking all the digital nonsense, right?
I don't think that's true. So
who's coming through then?
well, it's a bit like saying, why are all professors old? Because it's the point.
Hello.
Sorry. apart from some of the more glamorous Australian ones. But the point is that senior academics get to that position by going up through the ladder.
Role.
So it's it's like saying, why are there no 12-year-old experts in blah blah blah.
12-year-old, but I mean, you're convincing brand managers, media managers, who are probably in their 30s and stuff. And we had this as feedback from Future TV Global. Peter Field did a brilliant presentation, and some of the feedback was, yes, it was good, it was compelling, but it was a bit old-fashioned. So how do you jazz up some of the sort of marketing science and modernize it a touch?
You show them evidence and you build courses around it. So you're doing one, I'm doing one. I think, obviously I did tenure as an academic, and I think that university courses are behind the game, and I think that's a lot to do with practical data that they don't have access to. So they use, textbooks that were written in the 90s. So I think that is the case. So I don't think a lot of youth are coming out educated, and I think, there's a lot of us now who are investing in education for that purpose.
If I push back on it a bit, slightly puckishly. First of all, the advertising industry particularly, not so much the marketing industry, but the advertising industry, I think that part of the problem is it's an ageist industry obsessed with youth. So actually the balance is not that we have too many, old people. There are hardly any old people in advertising. We need a broader constituency of people thinking about advertising. And related to that, we're not serious enough. The advertising industry does not think deeply enough or seriously enough about what it's doing, because we're obsessed with fashion.
I can, account for that. I mean, obviously my business has we've been doing it for 7 years, and I didn't start productizing till year 5 because I did 5 years of research, and we get made fun of for that because, you're so slow to market. I go, actually, our stuff works because I've linked it all to marketing effectiveness and I understand how the metrics and the tools work. So I think, to your point, it's just this constant fast fashion kind of system that we live in, and it's pretty stressful.
The true effectiveness is goes against the grain of the way advertising works, because the advertising industry is a bunch of kids making stuff up.
Well, this is absolutely true. And actually, in the tech world, they actually have a saying: the technology and the data and the stuff that you provide doesn't need to be perfect. It's all about the execution.
I disagree. We're in measurement, right? So we see it in our world. So,
but the successful companies operate on that mantra.
Except you look at the tech world in the last couple of years and tell me that there hasn't been, a whole coming of age around valuations and problems. And so from a measurement perspective, we see it quite clearly that if something works half the time, that's not measurement. That's a metric that's spurious.
I totally agree with you. And I think one of the reasons that marketing got itself into a hole, which I think it's kind of getting out of, is digital measurement. And digital measurement was not thought through.
Hallelujah. Jesus.
It was thought through. I think you're wrong there. It was thought through so that the digital measurement providers, who often sell the media, can sell them more media. No. It was thought through very, very carefully.
Well, yes, okay. So it makes money for the people selling the tech. It doesn't make money for the people doing the marketing.
I can tell you the day it all changed. And the day that changed is when we stopped measuring humans and we started measuring digital, right? And so the default, so I call it outward versus inward. And the default was we can't do panels anymore because digital ecosystem is just a ginormous, huge, scalable thing. So we have to pick something that represents human engagement, and they picked time in view. Time in view is a, if you're lucky, 1 in 3 chance someone's looking, if you're lucky, right? So that's the day that measurement broke, when we stopped measuring humans as the human first and we measured something that was scalable and we can collect via data signals, which is time in view.
Can I talk about tools and dashboards and these attribution stuff that you mentioned? Like, how useful are siloed, media-driven dashboards and attribution techniques?
He's saying this because he knows it winds me up. As I said before, tools and dashboards in themselves rarely solve anything. People love the idea that you can buy a tool, an app, a piece of software, and it will solve all your problems for you. And they love the idea that if you have a dashboard, you understand everything. Firmly believe in measurement, because that's what I do, that's what Karen does. But measurement has to be rooted in understanding. So doing what Karen's done and spending years getting the product right. Fundamental understanding of what you're doing and why. Actually, if you do that, sometimes the tools you need are often quite simple.
Completely agree with you.
Attention tools? Do you like attention tools?
Oh, no,
or do they fit
Don't
in that
even
bucket?
ask him that.
Oh, come on.
I
have to.
Even calling what Karen's doing a tool is not the right way
Here's
of thinking
why.
about it.
Here's why. Because measurement and metrics are two different things, right? Measures are what you actually measure, and it's the fundamental root of something that you've learned. Metrics are a combination of things that you put together to build something that a marketer wants. So I often call it dirty code. So if anyone is a coder in the room, dirty code is when you put some sort of piece of code through the stack, and then the product starts to fail because you've got this one little line of code that is dirty and it sort of fails. And that's what metrics do. So in our industry, we're obsessed with metrics. We're not obsessed with measures. Measures are usually the things that are the core instrument that you measure, like weather. And then weather goes into something with multiple metrics. So it's very different.
I think you're still underselling yourself in a way. In that, because what's important is not that you've got an app or a widget that does attention. It's that you've done the years of the research and the papers and the writing.
Well, it's funny because I sometimes regret calling it that. I was the one that said we need a new metric measure other than engagement. So what's the closest to it? I think human attention. And then there's a whole nother load of problems with that word. I mean, all we needed to do was to manage the time in view issue and bring forth the equivalization of reach. I mean, I can't really call it that.
Can I just add dashboards? Dashboards was the other part of your question. Yeah. So, hands up there, anyone who's got a dashboard that has completely changed their strategy and their way of doing things? No. Nobody ever has had one of those. Dashboards, clients always think that they want dashboards, and it makes them feel safe, and then they don't really pay much attention to them, or if they do, it doesn't really tell them very much. You can't drive a car by just looking at the dashboard. Dashboards give you a snapshot of where you are now, and the dashboard of a car is useful, but you also need a compass, a map. You need to be looking out at where you're going. You need to have a memory of where you've been. Dashboards they're a small part of the issue of measurement, accountability, effectiveness.
And they also work in isolation. So my new book, what I'm launching today, is there you go.
6 p.m. tonight.
Yeah. Thank you. Last one ever, and then I'm out. Is exactly, I forgot the question now. What did you use? Dashboards. Is that it works in isolation. So the future of measurement is a layered stack which incorporates lots of... So you should own your own dashboards, and then you should be bringing in data, whichever country we're in, and then using it to improve your own measurement sort of processes and link it directly to your sales, right? And so when it works in isolation, you are excluding any additional measures that need to be a part of that measurement system. So I think the future are measurement marketplaces and also a layered stack, which is where I'm working towards.
I talk a lot about the balanced scorecard. You know, the idea that exactly what you're saying, a layered stack. But another thing about dashboards, sorry to bang on about this, is time series are way more interesting and informative than numbers. Like, you know, time series. Looking at trends rather than watching a needle going backwards and forwards.
Do you know, actually, so I've looked at this a lot, it's hard to judge, but it looks like media spend is pretty flat, but MarTech spend, so brands spending in these tools and dashboards and all that sort of stuff, seems to be on the rise. Does that concern you? Quick yes, no? It's good for you, Karen.
Well, no, because we don't build stuff like that, right? So what happens is our industry is now filled with vendors that are capitalizing on that and selling dashboards that don't work.
Okay.
It doesn't massively concern me, but people are not going to transform their businesses through that stuff alone.
Okay, let's give some advice to TV companies. We're on a TV stand here, and the only issue with what you're saying is that everyone is building dashboards, attribution stuff. TV has to go after the performance market, and they have to do it with data and give it back to clients. It's just what's happening in the industry. How does TV present itself to clients in your view? It's always sold itself on creativity, long-term brand building, but they need to change the narrative. Well, I believe they need to adjust to both markets. What's your advice to TV companies?
You go first.
Well, TV's natural strength is brand advertising, and brand advertising is the most important and profitable part of the marketing mix. It's the thing that is the main driver of sales and profit. I mean, it's quite interesting. In 2022, Meta, the artist formerly known as Facebook, published a study which said the most effective medium today is TV because of its long-term effectiveness. So if they're saying that, the TV industry should probably follow that.
And I can tell you why that is the case. Do you want me to jump in now? Sorry, I just cut you off.
Attention.
Beg your pardon. Is because of the nature of the way that we watch, right? So there are two types of viewing decay. One is fast, one is slow. So fast decay means that you see an ad for often less than split seconds, sometimes seconds, sometimes 2 seconds, and you avoid it at all costs by scrolling, skipping, changing your browser, whatever you can do. And then, so that's a really steep decay of your involvement. So you can't build brands with, I call it the attention memory threshold, so less than 2 seconds equivalent. And then you have the other platforms, and there are some digital platforms like this that have what I call a slow decay or a flat decay, which basically means throughout the course of the ad view, you're constantly switching. Sure, you can't change that, but you have a nice even spread of the view. So you can basically put a longer ad on a TV set or on a TV ad stack, or, there are others. That means you can get the whole sort of view of what the brand does, who they are, you won't misattribute it, et cetera, et cetera. So it's about the way that people are viewing.
TV can do the performance job to some extent, but it's not its natural strength, and there are other media that do it better. And I think if the TV industry goes down the path of going, hey, we've all got to do this performance stuff too and abandon brand building, you'd be really shooting yourself in the foot.
But it's just what it's connected to. So CTV can do that because it's connected digitally, right? But also, it's also about the CPM. So you pay more for more quality. So performance marketing is typically low cost, high volume, right? So,
and the performance market is outstripping the brand building market. Like you look at clients' media spend, if you're lucky, it's 50-50, maybe it's 40-60. So you can't blame the TV companies for going after that with fancy, flashy dashboards and outcome studies.
Yes, but there's a 60-40 ratio that some people have mentioned.
I was saying 40-60 the other way around. I know what you're saying.
I mean,
split between brand building and performance.
As what it should be.
Yeah.
You should lead with brand and support with activation. And again, even Meta support that.
I would argue that Facebook are suggesting that brand building is important and TV is vital to that, because actually ads are way more effective on their platform if it's a stronger brand activating against it.
We see
I think
that
that's
in
their
the
attitude.
data that we see as a synergy effect.
Okay.
I think you're actually being unfair to Meta. They did the research and they reported the outcomes. And actually, you could tell they're being honest, because if they were being dishonest, they would have put themselves as the most effective medium, not number 3.
Well, it's pretty rich, though. They came into the market sort of 10 years afterwards. Prior to that, they'd go into clients' offices and go, look how many people are on social, look how many people are on TV, you need to be spending more on social. So, I mean, it's fine for them to do that 10 years later, but, I mean, I'm not going to give them much credit for that.
I think they should be applauded for doing good research.
Okay, fair enough. So what about in CTV, a lot of the big trends we're hearing are like a lot of responsive-based innovations, okay? So you can tell me whether you like it or you hate it. These are the huge trends. Do you like QR codes on ads?
TV ads?
Yeah.
No.
It's a thing.
Yes.
You do?
I do.
Why do you like it?
Because I can get access really straight away to what I want on the ad.
Do a lot of people do that?
This is not my game, mate. I don't know.
No, so you
I don't know.
you as Karen,
Yeah.
you're relaxing in the evening.
Wait, where's this going? I don't relax very often, but if I was to see a QR code,
if you're watching,
it's just much quicker for me. Yes.
But well, I don't know about you, but when I'm sitting with my family, watching a bit of television, I'm not sitting there thinking, "Oh, I really want to be able to respond to the ads."
I don't want to respond to it. I want to buy something.
Yeah, but I'm not. I don't think. Well, personally, I'm not in shopping mode when I'm relaxing.
You're not a girl.
Yeah.
Damn it! You noticed.
All right, so the other one area, and you've mentioned it here, is shoppable TV ads. I'm not too sure how that's different to QR codes, but this is like a way more interactive feature, so you can see what's on. It's like the sort of the influencer stuff, and then you can click on the shirts and all that sort of stuff, and go straight to a retail outlet. Does that appeal to you, or do you think this is the same as the sort of attribution stuff? If clients do it, but not many people click on it, they're going to think it doesn't work, when really in the long term it could work.
The same answer as before, basically. But I suppose there are different kinds of TV viewing, aren't you? So when I think of TV viewing, I'm a very light TV viewer, and we when we're watching TV as a family, and I only really watch TV with my family. Yeah. It's a family bonding experience.
Shit.
But you're taking your own behaviour into what brands should be doing.
And there
They're not targeting
there are
Les Binet.
TV shopping channels and things like that, and that's a completely different world.
Okay.
Karen.
So Les hates shoppable.
Karen, you sucked your teeth. Tell.
Do you like shoppable,
tell
Karen?
us more.
Do they work? Yeah.
Look, at the end of the day, we're just arguing, that maybe TV should get into the performance marketing, but with brand building capability. So I kind of argue, well, why wouldn't we? So to your point, there are different people that have different use cases. My teenagers aren't really sitting next to me anymore because they smell because they're really big. So I'm comfy.
And what about contextual? That's like, I'm hearing that word all the time around Cannes. Does that appeal to you? Does that work?
We can see that it works in our data. So 100%. Okay. I mean, I don't know depending on how the stack works, but we can see it. It's an amplifier.
Okay, Les?
So by contextual, you mean that the ad is adapted to the
programming.
To the program, absolutely.
Okay, right. So last, I'm getting the finger here. So the last wrap up is the advice for clients, because clearly we're in this sort of two worlds that are sort of colliding, where we have the experts who say this is how marketing works, yet a lot of the narrative has been driven by digital, by attribution, short-term performance, and the rest of it. So how should clients manage that? What advice do you give to actually navigate both worlds, talk in a digital data-led language, but actually apply marketing science at the same time? Les?
I think education is a big part of it. When we talked the other day on the phone, I think the biggest job that we need is, we don't need more tools and dashboards. We need a fundamental education wave in the marketing industry. People need to actually understand how it all works.
There's a lot of education in the market, a lot of courses, but something that you said, I'm going to put you on the stall here. You think when they come into these brand managers' role, do they understand how marketing works?
A lot of them don't. No.
That's a problem.
And I think, sorry if I'm offending anyone, but in particular, I remember a guy at a conference coming up to me and saying, in his country, there's a real crisis of knowledge in his country, because the younger generation of marketers coming through had all come in through digital marketing. So they only understood that one side of the long and the short of it. They only understood the short of it. So he was saying it's becoming very hard to actually put people in senior roles because they didn't have had a fundamental misunderstanding about how marketing works.
Okay, education, your top
I would
tip?
say next year, let's not talk about digital, not digital, because it really is about what is the use case or what's the campaign objectives. So we've just built this amazing, so if anyone doesn't know, my original PhD was audience segmentation. So we've built this amazing segmentation framework, which basically says what actually do you want to achieve? Long, short, equity, blah, blah, blah. And here's the types of platforms and ad lengths and frameworks that you need for that specific objective. So I need us to stop talking about the division and start talking about what are the campaign objectives and how is it linked to brand growth, or what part, are you a big or small brand, et cetera, and then go backwards from there.
Okay, it's a brilliant way to conclude the session. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in thanking Les and Karen for being brilliant speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you
very much to RTL.